I thought my story was over. At 70, I had given up on love, convinced that loneliness was all I had left. But life has a way of surprising us when we least expect it. One ordinary day as I sat in a hospital waiting room, something happened that changed everything. This is my story, a story of heartbreak, hope, and finding love again when I thought it was impossible. And maybe, just maybe, it's a story that will remind you, it's never too late for a second chance. Hi, my name is Samantha, and I'm a 62-year-old woman living in New York. I used to be a successful accountant at one of the biggest firms in the US. Back in my younger days, I was earning well, and I decided to focus on my career, work hard, and enjoy life to the fullest. I traveled the world, visited countless countries, and lived what I thought was my dream life. But there was one thing I avoided: marriage or any serious relationships. I believed that settling down would feel like being trapped in a cage, and I didn't want anything to hold me back. Now looking back, I realize how wrong I was. I made choices that I thought would bring me happiness, but instead they left me with regrets. Today I want to share my journey with you, a story of reflection, mistakes, and second chances. If you're young, I hope my story inspires you to think differently and avoid the mistakes I made. And if you're older, I hope it reminds you that it's never too late to find happiness and love. When I retired, I felt so happy. After working for more than 35 years at the same firm, I thought, finally, it's my time to relax and enjoy life. For the first couple of months, everything felt perfect. I'd wake up late, cook my favorite meals, and spend my days doing whatever I wanted. But then one day everything changed. I was in the kitchen cooking dinner when I suddenly slipped and fell hard on the floor. Pain shot through my leg and I realized I couldn't move. My foot was fractured. I started shouting for help. Help me. Someone please help me. But no one came. I had chosen to live alone, and in that moment I felt the weight of that decision like never before. I lay there on the cold kitchen floor, tears streaming down my face, staring at the walls of my big empty house. I kept thinking, what's the point of all this? The money, the success, the house. It's all useless if I die here alone with no one to even notice. As I lay there, crying and helpless, a thought hit me like a storm. I had spent my entire life chasing my career and dreams, but at what cost? I had no partner, no children, no one to call my own. If I died that day, who would cry for me? Who would even know? That was the loneliest moment of my life. I felt like the most alone person in the world. That day I made a decision. I told myself, I need to find someone. I need a partner, someone to share my life with. But then doubt crept in. I thought, who would want to marry a 65-year-old woman? I don't have a youthful body or the energy I once had. What do I even have to offer? Those thoughts haunted me, but deep down I knew I couldn't keep living like this. I had to try. After that day on the kitchen floor, I knew something had to change. I couldn't keep living like this, alone, scared, and full of regret. But the thought of finding someone at my age felt impossible. I kept asking myself, who would want to be with a 65-year-old woman? I don't have the beauty or energy I once had. What do I even have to offer? These thoughts haunted me, but deep down I knew I couldn't let fear stop me. I had to try. At first I didn't know where to start. I tried joining a few online dating platforms, but it was a disaster. Most of the profiles I came across didn't feel genuine, and the few conversations I had left me feeling even lonelier. I thought, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I'm just meant to be alone. But then something unexpected happened. One day I was at the hospital for a routine checkup. I was sitting in the waiting room flipping through an old magazine when I noticed a man sitting across from me. He looked about my age with kind eyes and a gentle smile. I didn't think much of it at first, but then I saw him struggling to fill out a form. He looked frustrated, so I leaned over and said, "Do you need some help?" He looked up, surprised, and said, "Actually, yes. These forms are so confusing." We laughed and I helped him fill it out. That's how I met Robert. But it wasn't love at first sight, not even close. We talked for a few minutes and then he was called in for his appointment. I thought that was the end of it. But as fate would have it, we ran into each other again a week later at the same hospital. This time he approached me and said, "I owe you a coffee for helping me with those forms." I laughed and said, "Well, I never say no to coffee." That coffee turned into a 2-hour conversation. We talked about everything, our lives, our regrets, and the loneliness we both felt. Robert told me he had lost his wife a few years ago and had been struggling to find meaning in his life ever since. I shared my own story, and for the first time in years I felt like someone truly understood me. It wasn't a grand, romantic moment. It was simple, honest, and real. And that's what made it so special. But even then I was hesitant. I kept thinking, what if this doesn't work? What if I get hurt again? Robert must have sensed my fear because he said something I'll never forget. "Samantha, life is too short to let fear stop us from being happy. Let's take this one step at a time." And in that moment I decided to take a chance. After that coffee with Robert, something inside me shifted. For the first time in years I felt a spark of hope. But I was still cautious. I kept thinking, what if this doesn't work? What if I get hurt again? I had spent so many years building walls around myself that letting someone in felt terrifying. But Robert was patient. He didn't push me or rush things. Instead, he showed me kindness in the smallest ways, ways I hadn't realized I needed. We started meeting regularly, sometimes for coffee, sometimes for a walk in the park. Those walks became my favorite part of the week. We talk about everything, our pasts, our regrets, and even the silly little things that made us laugh. Robert had this way of making me feel like I was the only person in the world when he listened. He wasn't just hearing my words, he was understanding them. And that was something I hadn't felt in a very long time. But it wasn't all easy. There were moments when my insecurities crept in. I'd look in the mirror and think, why would he want to be with me? I'm not young or beautiful anymore. One evening I even told him, "Robert, I don't know if I'm enough for you." He looked at me, smiled, and said, "Samantha, you're more than enough. You're real, and that's all I've ever wanted." Those words stayed with me. They started to chip away at the doubts I had carried for so long. As the weeks turned into months, our connection grew stronger. We started sharing parts of our lives we hadn't shared with anyone else. Robert told me about his late wife and how he had spent years feeling like he'd never find happiness again. I told him about my regrets, how I had spent so much of my life chasing success that I had forgotten to chase love. We weren't just two people getting to know each other. We were two souls healing together. One day Robert surprised me with a small gesture that meant the world to me. He brought me a book, an old, worn-out copy of a novel I had mentioned loving as a child. "I found this at a second-hand bookstore," he said. "I thought it might bring back some good memories." I couldn't believe he had remembered something so small, but that's who Robert was. He paid attention to the little things, and those little things made me feel seen and valued in a way I hadn't felt in years. It wasn't just about the big moments, it was about the quiet ones too. Sitting on a park bench, watching the sunset, or sharing a laugh over a silly joke. Those were the moments that made me realize how much I had been missing. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I wasn't alone anymore. I had found someone who didn't just fill the emptiness in my life but brought joy and meaning to it. Looking back now, I can't believe how much my life has changed. For so many years, I thought I was destined to be alone, that my time for love and happiness had passed. But Robert proved me wrong. He didn't just bring love into my life. He brought laughter, companionship, and a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in years. Our days are simple, but they're filled with meaning. We cook together, take long walks, and spend hours talking about everything and nothing. It's not about grand gestures or dramatic moments. It's about the quiet, steady presence of someone who truly cares. And for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. But this journey wasn't just about finding Robert. It was about finding myself. I learned that it's never too late to take a chance to open your heart and to let someone in. I learned that love isn't about age or appearances. It's about connection, understanding, and being willing to take that first step, no matter how scary it feels. To anyone watching this who feels like it's too late for them, I want you to know this. It's never too late. Whether you're 30, 50, or 70, life has a way of surprising you when you least expect it. But you have to be willing to take that chance. You have to believe that you're worthy of love and happiness because you are. If my story has inspired you, I hope you'll take a moment to reflect on your own life. Is there someone you've been meaning to reach out to? Is there a step you've been too afraid to take? Don't wait. Life is too short to let fear hold you back. Take that step and who knows? You might just find the happiness you've been searching for. As for me and Robert, we're taking things one day at a time. And for the first time in years, I'm excited to see what the future holds. As I sit here today reflecting on everything that's happened, I can't help but smile. Life has a funny way of surprising you when you least expect it. If someone had told me a year ago that I'd be sitting here, happier than I've been in decades, I wouldn't have believed them. But here I am, and it's all because I took a chance. Robert and I have built something beautiful together. Not just a relationship, but a partnership. We've learned to lean on each other, to laugh together, and to face life's challenges as a team. It's not perfect, of course. We still have our moments of doubt and fear, but we face them together. And that's what makes all the difference. One of my favorite moments with Robert happened just a few weeks ago. We were sitting on the porch watching the sunset when he turned to me and said, "Samantha, I never thought I'd get a second chance at love. But you've shown me that it's possible to find happiness again, even after all the heartbreak." His words brought tears to my eyes because they echoed exactly how I felt. We both thought our stories were over, but it turns out they were just beginning. To anyone out there who feels like they've missed their chance, I want you to know this. Life isn't a straight line. It's full of twists and turns, and sometimes the most beautiful moments come when you least expect them. Don't be afraid to take a chance, to open your heart, and to believe that you're worthy of love and happiness. Because you are. As for me and Robert, we're not looking too far ahead. We're taking life one day at a time, savoring the little moments that make it all worthwhile. Whether it's a quiet evening at home, a walk in the park, or just sitting together in comfortable silence, we've learned to appreciate the beauty of the present. And for the first time in a long time, I feel truly at peace. So here's to second chances, to love, and to the courage it takes to start again. If my story has inspired you, I hope you'll take that first step, whatever it may be. Because sometimes all it takes is one small step to change your life forever. Thank you for watching this story on Second Chance Tales. If Samantha's journey has inspired you, remember, life is full of second chances, and it's never too late to find love, happiness, or a fresh start. We'd love to hear from you. If you have a story of your own about finding love or starting over, please share it with us. You can email your story too. Who knows? Your story might inspire someone else to take that first step toward their own second chance. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another inspiring story. Together, let's celebrate the beauty of new beginnings.